Hey everybody, I'm moonblazewolf. You can call me Blaze. This is 1980X. This is an indie game that has been around for about 5 months now, I want to say. It's kind of a long-term Kickstarter darling that I know I heard about a couple years ago, probably, and I've been really excited to play it. And then after I played it, I got really excited to learn how to speedrun it. So I'm really happy to share the game with everybody tonight slash this morning, depending on where you're at, and I hope you really enjoy it. It's actually kind of like 5 games in one, so there's a lot of variety and a lot of different styles of gameplay here. I'll probably talk a little bit more about it as we get underway. Before we do get underway, I just want to mention one thing really quick, and that is uh, I have a challenge for everybody watching the marathon. The kind of uh, the flavor of this game, the lore of this game, has to do with a lot of the arcade classics that I know I played a lot of growing up, and I'm sure a lot of you all played growing up as well. So my challenge to you is let's get a little bit of a donation train going during the run. Let's give Bullet Jill a lot of donations to read, full of nostalgia and people waxing nostalgic about some of their favorite games. We can't do $1.98 donations, which is kind of what I was hoping for. But maybe we can round them up to $2 to the nearest whole dollar. But yeah, just in your comments somewhere, just kind of say what your favorite old classic arcade game was, and we'll get all those read on air during the run. So, Jill, are you ready for me to get going?
I am ready. And I'm looking forward to reading a bunch of donations, so make sure you get those coming in. So yeah, I'm ready.
All right, sounds good. This game is beautiful and has a so I encourage everybody to crank it up. So I'm playing the full game no cutscenes category. This game also has about 13 minutes of amazing pixel art cutscenes that I unfortunately am going to be skipping, but you should all check it out for yourself sometime. It's on Steam and PS4, and it's going to be out for the Switch pretty soon as well. So, all right. So I'm going to go ahead and get started in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. And so this game is 5 different smaller games. Some of them are shorter, some of them are long. This is Beating Heart. It has 2 levels, and you're going to start to, like I said, sort of feel that nostalgia pretty quick here. Uh, one other little bit of backstory I just want to share because I think it's cool. This is our protagonist. Their name is Kid. They are a non binary high school student growing up in suburbia in the year 1980X. And kind of the lore of the game is them sort of navigating through some of the difficulties and struggles through video games and the games that they find at their local arcade. So, yeah, let's sit back, relax, and enjoy. So the first mini game is called Beating Heart. You'll probably recognize, like I said, what it's modeled after right away. All of the 5 games are sort of modeled after classic arcade games. They have different style. There's a couple things I can do to really optimize this one, including not get punched like that, but we'll get going here pretty quick. But I'm going to be doing a couple little optimizations to this particular game. One of them is I attack in a series of 4. So there's like a cadence of 4 when I'm doing my attack inputs. And there's only 2 inputs in this game. There's jump and attack. So the 4th input is like a roundhouse kick. If I cancel my input sequence before that roundhouse kick comes out, if I don't get interrupted, I can basically stun lock my enemy, and I can basically not knock them down until they're out of health. And if I knock them down, that's bad because then I have to wait for them to stand back up. So ideally, I want to do that. Another thing I'm doing is I'm jumping to the edge of in all of these so that I can. Oh, I warped across the screen there. That was fun. But I want to load in. Usually, I want to load in as many enemies as I can, just to kind of keep the game going. One of the interesting things about the speedrun, taken on the whole, is beating heart is actually one of the few. Whoops, I did not want to run over there. Beating heart is one of the few games where I can actually kind of optimize the way it goes. 2 of the 5 games are auto scrollers, so I don't really have a lot of opportunities to make up time in those. But if I have a really good beating heart, I'm usually feeling pretty good about it if I'm doing like a PB run or something like that. So, and I usually take a death. It's actually faster to be more aggressive and risk taking a death than it is to kind of play it a little safer. So no biggie. We're just going to keep going here.
While we're waiting for that donation train to roll in, can I let the people know what their money would be going towards?
Absolutely. I'm kind of trapped in a corner here, so.
Excellent. Well, you're currently watching Speedrun Ragnarok, and we're proud to benefit Take This again this year. Take This is a mental health nonprofit, and their main mission is to inform the gaming community about mental health issues, provide education on different disorders and prevention techniques, and reduce the overall stigma around mental illness. If you would like more information, please visit takethis.org. Our wonderful Skyla Kitty has put that link in the chat for easy access if you're watching this live.
Swag kick. Sorry, had to interrupt, but it sounded like you were done there. Anyway.
I was done. It was good timing for the swag kick.
All right, so that's actually the end of Beating Heart. That particular one has 2 stages. You get a little bit of a feel if you check out that background there, just some of the amazing pixel art that's in this game. I'm actually waiting for a particular moment to go by, and then I can back out. This is a very new game, very new speedrun community. One of the things that we have decided on is common rules for timing each of the different games. In part because that way, if people just want to do like individual level runs, for example, they have the same timing rules as I do when I'm doing like a full run of the game. So I was just waiting for that hooded guy to, or hooded figure to jump off the wall, and then I could back out to the main menu and start the next one. And now we are switching gears pretty dramatically. So we went from the beat 'em up to this is kind of like a space shooter. And one of the things that I really enjoy about speedrunning this game is there's a lot of other games that I can play that essentially kind of warm up and work for practice. So just for example, the other day I went to my local barcade and they had a really cool like I think it was either Korean or Japanese kind of like 4-player space shooter. I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but I was like, hey, I'm practicing for my speedrun right now. This is one of our 2, so I can't really do too much to optimize this other than not die, so I'm going to be kind of focusing on that. But there's some mini bosses and actual bosses along the way that I can kind of speed those up by, you know, kind of doing the fights optimally. But other than that, I'm kind of just scrolling along.
Oh, sorry for the delay. I'm fighting the cat boss.
Oh, you're fine.
This is what happens when your cat has named after a video game character.
This game does have beautiful pixel art cats and dogs in the cutscenes that we're not watching. All right, so there's our first mini boss. We are about to fly off into the asteroid belt now, so got a little bit of navigating that I need to do here. Fun fact, I did not realize these asteroids would just completely obliterate me. until a couple days ago when I was practicing. Apparently before that, I'd never run into one of them before, so go me. But it did sort of make me sort of realize that, oh, I actually have to pay attention during this part so I don't get taken out by a giant asteroid. Normally the ship has 3 hits, by the way, so you might see me take damage at some point. It's generally not a big deal. See, like I just took a hit there, right? But I still have a little bit of life to work with. And that's stage 1. Out of the Void also has 2 stages. And now we're headed to the second stage. The second stage is much more challenging. There's a lot of these kind of turret enemies in particular that are pretty difficult to deal with, as well as environment that I can run into. And if I run into stuff that is part of the environment, it will damage me as well. So a little bit of tighter spaces to navigate and more projectiles to dodge.
All right, the cat has decided to perch to my shoulder, so I have my hands back. I have a donation whenever we get a chance to read it.
Go for it.
It is a $2 donation from Lena, who says, grew up on Link's Awakening on the original GBA as a child. I remember being in Spain on holiday, sneaking out of bed early to grab my dad's GBA to play that. Recently picked up the remake, and he's been burritoing himself on the couch, playing that on the Nintendo Switch. Put this towards Runner's Choice. Thank you, Lena.
Nice. I'll have to look at that after the run and see what is out there. I suspect there's probably some unmet incentives that we haven't unlocked yet, so probably just put it towards the next one. Did you frequent the local arcade growing up, Jill?
Actually, I didn't, unless you count Chuck E. Cheese as a local arcade. Because we didn't really have a local arcade, but I did, anytime I was anywhere near an arcade, I would go in and I would spend money to play games. I remember our local Putt Golf had a lock-in one night where all the arcade games were free, and so I did that for probably about 12 hours.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, so like my two, I'll focus on this boss here, and then maybe I will get a little nostalgic afterward. This is the final boss of Out of the Void. Very safe fight. There's kind of there's like a row I can line up on here in the background, and then I only have to worry about dodging those green projectiles while I wail away on that boss, and they're dead. So now we're just gonna kind of do a little from this space station that is totally not the Death Star, and then we will be on to our third of the 5 arcade games. Okay, and I was just waiting for the screen to go to black. One other thing I haven't really talked about a whole lot yet is the level of glitchiness in this game. You're not going to see a lot of glitching at all. There's really only one major glitch in the run. I am going to try to do it as long as I am moving at a pretty good pace. I'm definitely on a good pace right now. And that is the final boss of the entire game can be glitched. So if we stay on a good pace, I'll probably go ahead and give that a shot because it's really, really cool. But other than that, the game is basically just rewarding good play skill and lots of practice. So if you're like me and you're somebody who has not done a lot of speedrunning historically, especially like traditional speedrunning, I'm much more of like a randomizer player, then this could be like a really good first speed game for a lot of people, I think. All right, so we got the runaway here. Just going to be driving this car down the road for the next couple. There's not too much to say about this. It's kind of like driving in real life. Don't want to run into things. So if we got any more donations, this would be a great time for those.
None quite yet, but I will just remind everybody that these donations and the donation train will be going towards Take This. And Take This helps people in the gaming community suffering from mental illness by letting them know that they are not alone in their struggles and there are treatment options out there to help.
awesome. So unfortunately, I do have to use my brake. It just absolutely kills me inside as a speed run, but it's much better than flying off the road. So we're just kind of cruising right along here. Ooh, okay. Got to skip that guy on the left. That's kind of fun when that happens. There's these cars have some pretty interesting hitboxes, and if you play this enough, you'll kind of learn. You can essentially clip through like either the left or right third of most of the cars, which always looks kind of cool when you do it. So, see if I get an opportunity to clip through a car at any point here. All right, we kept it on the road. That one I was worried about. Bonked him a little bit there. All right, so we're coming up on a. This is a no cutscene category, like I said. There is one required long cutscene coming up here that I have to control the car through. Technically, it's probably a cutscene. There's a little bit of narration here. There's also some really amazing music. A little bit of night drive in here. If we have any more donations, we can read those. Otherwise, I would love to share my early arcade memories.
We currently don't, but just want to remind them to get those donations in, please, and go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, this is as you can see by the timer here, we got about 3 minutes left. I won't talk the whole time, of course, but my two earliest memories of playing, in the arcades, because I did have like a NES when I was, but me and my friends would always go to it. Actually, it was kind of like a corner store. It wasn't really an arcade, but they had the X-Men arcade game, which is still my favorite one to play to this day. And I just remember we all just kind of had this pact one day where we were like, all right, we're gonna beat this thing. Everybody bring like $5 in quarters. Let's go take this down. And we did it. It was very, very satisfying, and it was a good sort of bonding experience for a group of young kids. Messing around, teamwork, and playing video games together. So that was a lot of fun.
Speeding cars reminding me that there was a way out.
I think a lot of people have a story like that, or they have some sort of that first time they went into an arcade, or they they saw video games, either whether it was a console or whether it was out somewhere, maybe even unexpectedly, because in the 80s and 90s it wasn't, we weren't inundated with video games as a media the same way these days. So this is also a really good time for me during the speed run to sort of mentally prepare myself for the fourth mini Shadow play. Shadow play is by far the hardest of the 5 mini games. We get this kind of like cool chill break in the middle of the speed run just to listen to some music, enjoy the nice scenery, and get ready for the challenge ahead.
But it wasn't just about the escape. It was about transformation. For every visit I made, every game I uncovered, every move I mastered, I felt stronger, more confident. Some guy guys said I was nothing but a dreamer.
I was looking at chat for a second and I accidentally bonked on that motorcycle. Not that it matters, we just get a little less of this kind of city off in the distance.
No one told me where to go.
One other cool thing I will mention about this game, I did Kickstarter. The developers really, they got a product out for in kind of like their promised delivery window. However, this game is not. They have stated this is not a complete game yet. They are planning on releasing a part 2, hopefully next year, I believe they said. You know, I'm very excited for more 1980X in the future as well. All right, so we're about, in terms of time, we're the run. I know a lot of the folks who watch on the RPG Valkyries channel are RPG fans. I promise you there is an RPG. It is the last of the 5 games. We get this nice variety of gameplay. This is this really difficult auto-scroller. And I'm going to probably need to focus for a fair number of this. So let's make sure Jill has a lot to do here for the next 7 or 8 minutes or so.
Yeah, and what I'll say, maybe to incentivize the lovely members of chat to get this donation train going a little bit faster, is I will match each donation in the donation train up till the $20 mark. So including Lena's, I'll match up to 9 more of them and do that donation as soon as my hosting shift is over. So if you want to basically get an extra $2 for your $2, go ahead and donate.
Yeah, I'll do the same. That's a great idea.
You heard it. Your $2 is worth $6.
One of the things I'm actually most nervous about with this, and I'm really hoping that doesn't happen because the music is really, really. All right, that's stage 1. This one actually has 5 stages. It's definitely a bit longer in terms of content, and it does get progressively harder. If you just play this game for fun, and this is probably the one game that you're going to get stuck on, if I was to guess, because it gets pretty intense. Even though they give you 5 health, it's still it can go pretty quickly, and we're going to start to see our first of the auto kill kind of traps that exist in Shadowplay, which is those spears right there. So if I run into those, I just straight up die. And there's also the stakes that you see coming up here. They kind of let you know how those work by defeating one of the enemies with it. So you're like, oh, okay, don't touch those sharpened wooden poles. I would not have guessed that if you hadn't showed me game. One of the interesting things about learning the speedrun for me is I mentioned earlier, I'm mainly like an RPG runner. I am not a platforming gamer by any stretch of the imagination. I've been pretty bad at platformers throughout most of my life. It was really sort of interesting and challenging to learn a brand new kind of, because it was folded in with some of these other things that I was kind of interested in. I kind of had to get good at, and I probably wouldn't have felt inclined to do so if the entire game was like, but because it was part of a bigger package, became more approachable, and I felt more like incentivized to learn how to do it. All right, so that's 3 out of 5 stages. This next one coming up is by far the hardest, so I'm definitely going to need to mostly just focus through this. If you listen carefully, you will hear an awoo in this stage, and I'm not going to say when it is, but you may hear me awoo quietly as well. We'll see.
Being very quiet because I'm waiting for the awoo.
We actually just had it. I didn't awoo because I ran this in a marathon, and I got so focused on the awoo, I actually fell in hits and dives. So I don't want that to happen. I really want to have a good run for everybody tonight. So so far so good. The hardest part of the stage is behind me. The 5th stage is basically the final boss. It's an incredibly cool looking final boss sprite, and as someone who is a part of a community that loves our final boss sprites, I can say that this is one of my favorites. Reminds me of something out of like a Studio Ghibli movie. So kind of see him lurking there in the background.
All I heard from that is that you always know woo when your run's over.
That's fair, especially if I get a really good time, which here's hoping that stays pat throughout the rest of the run. Now, this boss is pretty scary when you play casually. These attacks are pretty intense. It's going to get a lot faster than this too, but he does follow the same patterns every time. So once you learn the pattern, you can pretty much just make it through the level without any problem. There's this nice, well, I say nice, but there's this middle section where I have to do like the hardest platforming in the entire run too. So I'm gonna just kind of focus on that for a second. There we go. All right, so now it's gonna get pretty intense, but thankfully I kind of know how to dodge the attack. The throat tongue is really creepy, by the way. Music, unfortunately, there's music that's supposed to be going along with this stage and we're now, which is too bad. But yeah, that is Shadow Play. Just waiting for the end here.
All right. Well, I do have 2 donations.
Yeah, let's hear it.
We have $2 from our very own lovely Scala Kitty. It says, Fave arcade story. Taking my girlfriend to an arcade bar on ladies' night so we could play all the free games we wanted. Subverting the system for the win. Donation goes to having the Deltarune party in Earthbound Randomizer. Thank you, Scala. And we also have a $2 donation from Anonymous that says, $6 for $2. Best deal, 1980X.
Thank you so much for those donations. Yeah, I love barcades. I don't know if you've ever been great way some of those classic games. So
yeah, I was at a barcade during TwitchCon, and they had this kind of giant Space Invaders thing that was like you actually had the controls in front of you that you used to aim on this giant LCD screen. And me and Leggy Starscream played that for probably a good 15-20 minutes. That was really, really fun.
Nice. That sounds really cool. All right, so this is Kill Screen. This is the final arcade game. This is the RPG. As you can see, I have points, therefore it is an RPG. One thing I wish I was able to do in this game is run away, because I don't like a lot of these encounters. And in fact, there's also a ton of RNG. So I'm pretty much at the mercy of the RNG until I get to level 3. After level 3, I pretty much safe from everything unless I mess something up. So we will wait until I clear that particular hurdle, and then I can breathe a little bit of a sigh of relief. So far, so good. I almost walked into the boss that would have killed me there. That would have been bad. So I'm going to kind of just chill in this hallway for a sec. I'm actually running a new route tonight for the first time in a live run. So normally I go, you can kind of see there's a little mini map up in the corner. I normally go to the left, but I did a little bit of mapping earlier tonight, and I realized it was a little bit shorter just to go to the left. I did try this previously when I was routing the game, but this first boss is pretty difficult. However, if you go into it with full hit points at level 3, you should be fine. So I'm gonna hopefully get that level here after I fight these sentinels, and then I'll be able to take him down. The bosses, by the way, are 3 dragons. They are the Pain Dragon, the Fear Dragon, and the Grief Dragon. So this is very like, I don't know exactly what you would call it. They're going for a particular this mini game for sure. But they also correspond to my 3 different attacks that I have. They're each weak to one of those. In fact, all of the enemies are weak to one of my 3 attacks. So part of learning this part of the game is learning which enemies are weak to which attacks, and then attacking accordingly, I guess. All right, and we're level 4 now, pretty much on easy street for the rest of the route. The other interesting thing is, I mentioned there's no way to run away. There was any more experience for the entire rest of the mini game. But unfortunately, I'm kind of at the mercy of the game in terms of if it decides to give me 20 encounters between now and then, I just have to take 20 encounters. If it gives me like 5, then I'm good with that too. So here's hoping for not a lot of encounters here. So far, the RNG has been pretty forgiving. I hope it stays that way for just a little bit longer.
Have another donation if we have a moment.
Absolutely.
Feather went above and beyond here and donates $5, which I will still match because we're not at the $20 threshold yet. That says, for me, it was Street Fighter 2. It was the first thing in my life I ever felt I was great at. It made me feel like no one was better than me. Video games in general can give that to us all. Well, thank you so much, Two Feather.
Very cool. Yeah, part of the appeal of this game, and the developers have been very explicit sort of talking about this as well, is they know that everybody had a childhood story involving video games, and they want to kind of give people an opportunity to sort of tap into those and relive some of those experiences, which is very cool. All right, so I'm gonna get this particular Dargon down, and then I probably should about to do when I get to the final boss. So the first thing that you should know about this glitch is it does occasionally soft lock the game, so I'm really hoping that doesn't happen. I'm missing my inputs and timing earlier and wasn't soft locking unless I screwed something up, so I'm pretty confident that we'll be okay. If it does soft lock, I do have to go all the way back to the beginning, but I'm running at a really good pace right now, so I'm willing to risk it for the biscuit. So what I'm gonna do when I get to that fight is what happens normally with the game is after you finish fighting the 3rd dragon, the final boss kind of appears after you finish that encounter. What the developers didn't plan on is they allowed you to continue moving while that encounter was loading in. So what you're going to see me do is I'm going to defeat that 3rd dragon, and I'm going to backpedal down this long hallway. Hopefully I will get a random encounter. If I don't get a random encounter, I'll fight the bosses. But if I do get a random encounter, that means I'm going to be in the glitched final boss fight. It's pretty crazy. So we'll see if that goes well here. But this is the third dragon, so it'll be right after this. All right, so I'm going to backpedal out of here. All right, and there's my normal encounter. And now the final boss is going to load in behind that. This is going to go really fast. One thing, but the flashing does get a little bit intense. So if you are sensitive to light, you may want to just look away for a minute. I need to focus on the audio because if I don't... if I mess up the audio cues, is what will cause the soft lock. So I'm just going to focus on that. All right, and that should do it. I'm not to time yet, but the final boss is down. The way that fight normally works is you can't damage the final boss at all. So instead, what you have to put each of your attack inputs twice for 0 damage, and then you can heal. So in the glitched fight that I did, basically because I loaded in that normal encounter before I got to the final fight, it freaked the game out. It didn't know what to do, and it normally plays that entire sound clip kind of like a little mini cut scene in between each round. But because the game thought I was in a normal encounter, it allowed me to just kind of stack my inputs like that, and because of that, it goes a lot faster, probably about 30 to 45 seconds faster than if you did that fight normally.
I honestly couldn't say.
And we're coming up on time here shortly. We're having a moment here, and our arcade friendos are going to show up and give us their support. So. I would say the game got confused, yeah. It definitely freaks out a little bit. That's part of why it soft locks if you don't handle cues correctly, because it will not allow you to get back to your input menu if you don't do things in the correct sequence.
It was just...
And that's time. All right, so that was a 35:31. Really, really good time, especially. I am the world record holder in this category, and mine was like a 34:32. So that was a lot of fun. That was a really good run, and I just want to say thank you to everybody for watching. Thank you, RPG Valkyries, for giving me an opportunity to show off this amazing indie game. Thank you, Hybit Studios, for creating this game. It's one of my favorite games that I've played in a really long time. It's just honestly one of those games that's a little bit kind of like a work of art. As I mentioned at the beginning of the run, there's about 13 or 14 minutes of beautiful pixel art cutscenes and music that we just kind of skip out on in the speed run. So if you like the game, if you want to pick it up for yourself, or if you just want to give it a shot, go ahead and check out 1980X and give it a spin for yourself.
Well, GG's on that run, and thank you very much for showing that off for us, Blaze. Anything else you wanted to say real quick?
Not really. Just again, I'm really grateful to be included in the marathon. It's for an incredible cause. If you can donate to take this, it's an amazing organization doing fantastic and much needed work for a lot of people like me and friends of mine who deal with mental illness and issues along those lines. And one of the things that they do that is just so cool is they allow folks who might normally be intimidated by some of the experiences that make video gaming so much fun. they break down the barriers to people having those fun life experiences. So I definitely encourage everybody to continue to support the marathon these next few days.
Absolutely, and I second that. And looking here at the last count, we had $11 in donations throughout the run, so I'll be matching that with my own $11 donation shortly after the next run. And if you still wish to do that as well, it'll be $11 whenever you get a chance.
Oh, definitely.
Well, thank you again. I think we're going to get set up for the next run, which is going to be Degrees of Separation. It's going to be run by Muffins and Matty Ice. So stick around. This is going to be a lot of fun, and I'll tell you why very soon.